Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. We are here again, and we're going to do a recap of the week and then a live preview for the Brighton game on Saturday. So, hello, Beth. How are we this evening?
Hello, I'm doing good. I'm sick of the heat, but I'm buzzing that we've won at the weekend, so I can't complain about anything.
Yes, and we will be finding out if Newcastle can go back to back on the weekend. Such is the title. But first of all, we'll go back almost 5 days now to Nottingham Forest and that home dominant win on Saturday. Beth, any any moments to pick out for as your favourites since then? Just looking back on it.
I don't know. I've already shared that I thought Joe Willock was outstanding, and the one moment that has actually stuck in my head, and I don't know if this is just because I was a bit drunk on Saturday or what, but there was this moment. It was the halfway line, and he just went in and he won the ball, and it was unbelievable. He was just so good on Saturday, Joe Willock. I'm just not going to stop going on about it.
And I bet you're going to ram it down my throat, aren't you?
Yeah, I've even collected some stuff to tell you about.
Make sure you've checked out our reaction to the Nottingham Forest win if you haven't already. We did a live stream on Saturday from the new office after the game, so check that out if you can. But it was a phenomenal, dominant win for Newcastle on Saturday. Callum Wilson, and of course it was, who was the other goal scorer? Fabian Schär. How can I forget?
How have you forgot that one? What a rocket!
I did that for the viewers. Yeah. So yeah, they were the two goal scorers. But Beth, do you think either of them could grab a goal this weekend before we look too far forward?
Well, I was just looking at Callum Wilson's stats against Brighton, and he scored in 4 games against them out of 9. So pretty 50-50 really. But I think right now he's feeling confident. He's looking confident. Even at the weekend, there was loads of opportunities where he could have been in a better position or whatever, and he thought, oh, it's just not going to happen for him today. But then he had that little moment of magic, didn't he? What a lovely goal as well. So I always back Callum Wilson.
Yes, yeah, and it'd be hard not to. He's a fantastic player, especially when he's fit. It is always lovely to see Callum Wilson fit and well, because he's going to score goals, and that's hopefully what we'll get this weekend. 49 against Brighton. That is a pretty good record. Nothing tremendous, but yeah, back him to score. You never know. We'll just get up these stats just to show you how dominant of a win it was for us on Saturday. I'm going to get rid of that 1 second. But really, can we expect the same amount of dominance against Brighton?
Oh, I don't know though, because I was looking at obviously Nottingham Forest and Brighton are different leagues in quality, aren't they? But I was looking, and obviously Brighton won at the weekend against Man United, but their possession stats, it was Man United had a similar possession to what we had today. So maybe it just depends on what tactics they come out with, because obviously now we know Eddie Howe likes to play with the ball. He likes to keep possession. So I would expect us to be pretty similar, maybe not as full on, because obviously Brighton are a bit more of a threat than Forest. But I don't know. I think it's going to be a very good game of football.
Yes, yeah, and we do notoriously struggle against Brighton with the ball, especially because they usually are very good on the ball. We'll come on to their stats against Man United in a minute, but fingers crossed. I mean, I'd just like to see us grab more of a foothold in the game against Brighton, even if we get a point, because I don't want to look too far ahead. Obviously, it'd be fantastic to get 3 points, but would you be happy with a point on Saturday?
I think I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't be unhappy either, because obviously Brighton finished 9th last season, I think. So that's the kind of goal we're realistically aiming for this season. That's what kind of position we want to be around. So that is the kind of teams that you realistically want to be beating now, or at least competing. And we drew with them last season, so I think to show the progress we've made, you'd want to beat them.
Yeah, point taken. And yes, that was the last game, wasn't it? Before the miraculous Eddie Howe took over, I believe. Yeah. He was sitting in the stands with Amanda Staveley, Jason Tyndall. I suppose this marks how far we've come, really.
Yeah,
Finishing 11th last season with Eddie Howe, and this will be a real test of how much has changed, I suppose. Obviously we have played them at home since, but
yeah.
which was a drab game in itself. I think we were lucky to win that one. But this will be, I suppose, this will be a real test of how far we've come, won't it?
I think like one thing that's got to be different is we've got to like be more clinical when we're taking our chances, because at the weekend we had like 23 shots or maybe something like that, and there was only like 10 of them on target, and then we won 2-0, and like that's against a Forest team who they're not the strongest team in the league either. So I think it's obviously going to be a lot more difficult against Brighton, and there's going to be games where we're going to have to take our chances and be more clinical. So that's something we've got to improve on.
Yeah, I think definitely for me, anyways, although we did have a lot of shots against Forest, I didn't think we created anything clinical, other than Joe Linton having his run in the early. In the first half, was it? I don't think we created any clear-cut opportunities. There wasn't many chances where I was thinking, "Oh, we've got to score there. We should have scored."
Yeah.
We just were very clinical in the little chances that we had. Wilson's brilliant finish and Cher's thunderbolt. I think we need to be a bit more creative, really, I suppose.
Yeah, I think like we looked a little bit relaxed, if you know what I mean. It was like they were passing it around, and like they didn't look as angry or disappointed when they weren't putting them chances away as what they would against the teams like Brighton, for example, because they knew that there was going to basically be another opportunity coming. So, and that's no disrespect to Nottingham Forest, but you could see the differences in quality, and obviously the players would have felt that too.
Yeah, and I suppose you don't want them to be relaxed, but you can kind of expect that a little bit of pre-season. I don't know, maybe fatigue coming in, or not fatigue, I suppose, but they didn't necessarily. I mean, we won obviously, so that's good, but it didn't seem like we were desperately looking. It did seem, I suppose, a little bit complacent, you would say.
I think if that came from like how confident they are now, though, in themselves and like as a team, and like they look like they knew that they were going to win the game, so they didn't need to like, full on go for it and then be disappointed if they missed, because they knew there was another chance coming, and they had that belief as a team. Whereas like it's good to be talking about this, because before we've been like, oh, we've had none of the ball, we're not shooting enough, like they don't look bothered. But like on Saturday, it wasn't that they didn't look bothered, it was just like they were so relaxed.
Yeah, and I think definitely kind of the Newcastle of the past either push for that win and maybe concede one at the other end, or push for that win and just see out a 0-0 where they haven't managed to break the deadlock. So I guess although we can say whatever we like, we've got to be grateful for the fact that we did manage to get the 3 points, and we did manage to overcome Nottingham Forest on the opening day, which is often a very difficult challenge facing a newly promoted side. But we'll move on now. That's probably about enough of the Nottingham Forest game. We'll speak about some transfer targets. So earlier this week, we were linked with Gonzalo Ramos of Benfica. Beth, what do you know?
Absolutely not very much at all. What I do know is he wears the shirt number 88, and we've got that available. So if he wants to come over, he can keep his shirt number. We'll all be happy with him. No, but I was looking, and he seems like quite versatile. Like I was looking at where he started games for Benfica, and sometimes he's been a cam, sometimes he's played on the left, sometimes he's been like that main striker, and he's so young. And I was looking at his goal scoring record for like the Portugal youth teams, and they're always so good. Like his goal returns are incredible, and he scored a hat-trick against the Republic of Ireland. So we love that, don't we? So he's young, and obviously you never know what could happen with a young player from abroad coming into the Premier League. But his returns seem tasty for quite a young player. And I've seen as well, he's played one game so far. It says this season, I don't know what league, like what competition it's in, but he's already had an assist in that one appearance. So
Yeah, I think that's possibly the Portuguese league. So I've just pulled up his stats here. Here he's up the top, Gonçalo Ramos, number 88. And so, yeah, as you can see on the right-hand side here, 17 times last season he liked to play as a second striker. So he could possibly be playing with Wilson by the looks of things, but you would think he's more of a backup. I suppose he's got only 7 goals and 2 assists in 29 games, over 1,500 minutes. But yeah, playing with Darwin Núñez obviously last season. Maybe he might have a similar kind of career arc in terms of Darwin Núñez had a similar season like that season before last, and then he's exploded in the Portuguese league and gone into Liverpool. Do you think we might be going a step too far, step too early with this one? Or obviously it's difficult to read into without too much knowledge, I suppose.
Well, he does look like a really promising player, but you've also got to ask the question, like, if he is this talent that we're all expecting him to be and being excited about, would Benfica really want to get rid of him when they've already got rid of Núñez this season?
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think they're possibly just going for a refresh of their forward line while they can maybe get good prices for them while they can if we're in the market for it. Because you see there is in the top right, his value is 12.6. And I think we were linked with, what, 30, 40 million prices, I think.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Anyone in the comments, please feel free to get your comments in as well. But I think I'd happily see him come in if I trust the board, I trust Eddie Howe, I trust them to make the right signing. So if they think he's the right person to be backup or to challenge Callum Wilson even better, that would be great because he's young as well. He's only 21. He's looks like he's tall as well. He's got a good pedigree for the under 21s for Portugal. I'd happily see him come in if the board trust him, but I don't want to see this kind of like panic signing, if that makes sense.
I think though, like a bonus of him is like if he was playing behind Callum Wilson, he'd be doing a lot more of the running for Callum Wilson, which would protect him because obviously our biggest fear with him is him getting an injury. And obviously, if he's not doing all of the running around that he usually is doing, because there's a younger player behind him doing it for him, that saves him another job. So it could only be a good thing for Callum Wilson, I think, if we brought in a young striker.
Yeah, no, I do agree. One thing I noticed as well, just to change the subject completely, I noticed on Saturday I thought a lot of Joe Linton's running was he did a lot of forward pressing. He did a lot of running for Callum Wilson. I thought potentially that's to protect Callum Wilson because obviously he gets a lot of muscle injuries. Yeah, I don't know if anyone noticed that, but
yeah, I did as well. And Callum Wilson, he's seen a lot less of the ball than usual because we've seen him in like previous games, and he's not afraid to run with the ball and run at players and players' passes and things. And I was reading the stats and things, and at the weekend he only made 7 passes, and he wasn't really seeing the ball. They were literally just waiting for him to get in the positions to score these goals. Like he was like a poacher.
Yeah, no, he really was starved of it. I think he only had 6 touches in the second half, and was that 7 passes throughout the game?
Yeah,
that is some ball drought, I suppose you would say.
I think that's why though. Like it took a really special finish from him to get his goal, and it was like a wonderful finish that was. It was so good.
And I suppose if you don't want him to drop in deep as well, which obviously you don't, because of his threat around the box, it is very difficult when Forest have got 7 or 8 men inside their own half, or they were defending so deep. So yeah, but on to another potential target. We'll move on to Christian Pulisic. Would you like to see him make a switch to the Toon, or potentially on a loan, or I don't know, maybe there's an option to buy at the end of it?
I really like him. I think he's like a really good player, and I think like he came with this like big name, and everyone was so excited about him, and it hasn't really worked for him at Chelsea. But like you can't say that makes him a bad player or he's not cut out for it, because it was the same as like Timo Werner. Like he was incredible and his goal return was brilliant. And then at Chelsea, it just didn't work for him. And that doesn't mean that he's a bad footballer. It just doesn't work for him there. And I think Pulisic is like the kind of player Eddie Howe could really like fit into his system and get the best out from him. So I think he'd be a good signing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm not so sure. I've always thought he's been a little bit kind of overrated. I don't think he gets as much goal return that he should, to be honest. I think that's one thing at Chelsea, similar to Timo Werner, like you said. But if he was to come to us and to shine and to stand out and really thrive from his early promise at Dortmund, I would absolutely not be against that. I think he would be a good signing for us. And obviously, it just adds more competition, that little bit more competition, him ahead of potentially, Ryan Fraser, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron.
That's what Lee says, isn't it? Oh, is he better than Jacob Murphy? Get him in.
Yeah, exactly. And so, if he is better than one or any of Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron, Ryan Fraser, then why shouldn't we be signing them? As long as it's not drastic money. So, I would happily see Christian Pulisic come on loan. I don't think we're going to sign him permanently, and I don't think that, to be honest, I don't think that'd be clever either, considering he's never had a full, he's never shone in the Premier League in my eyes. He's had fits and spurts, but he hasn't really shone consistently. But we'll move. We've been linked with a lot of Chelsea players this week as well. I think there's Conor Gallagher and Callum Hudson-Odoi as well. What do you make of those? Do you think we really need a player like Conor Gallagher, or would you rather see the likes of Sean Longstaff or your beloved Joe Willock starting in that centre midfield?
No, I think Conor Gallagher's a very good footballer. I think he's really good. Like whenever we've played against him and stuff, I've thought he's been a standout player in midfield. Like he can dictate a game, but obviously we don't need a midfielder that's going to dictate a game because we've got Bruno, we've got Joe Linton, and they'll set the pace. But I think he's a very good player, and I don't think he's necessarily someone we really need. But he wouldn't be like someone I would turn my nose up at and think, why have we brought him in? But yeah, I do love Sean Longstaff, I do love Joe Willock, so
yeah.
Odoi as well, by the way. I do like him.
Hudson-Odoi, yeah. I think Hudson-Odoi, again, I think we only get one of him or Pulisic if we're shopping the low market from Chelsea. Steve said Pulisic was slotting at left wing, which is by far his best position. Would he displace Alan Saint-Maximin, though? Would you have Christian Pulisic over Alan Saint-Maximin? Yes or no?
Absolutely not.
I'd have to agree as well.
When you think about Alan Saint-Maximin, at the weekend, he looked a lot better. He was passing the ball, he was pressing, he was trying to win the ball back when he was losing possession. We've seen him before lose the ball and his head would just go around. And he'd start waving his arms as if to say, well, someone better tackle him. And at the weekend, he was doing it himself. And there was a time in the first half, he sprinted back straight away to try and win the ball back after he'd lost it. And that's different for Alan Saint-Maximin. And I think now he's finally understanding the way Eddie Howe wants to play and the way the fans want him to play. And he'll only be loved more for it, really, won't he?
Yeah. If that's his main issue, if he keeps on working hard, and if he keeps his main two issues, and this can go for a lot of players, not most, but Alan Saint-Maximin's work ethic, I think most fans would say is below the 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of the team at least. And his end product, it's his work ethic and his end product. If he can keep those at a high level, then there's absolutely no question about his place in the team, because he's got unreal amounts of ability and he's got so much that he can provide, so much skill, so much flair. If he can keep that work ethic up, it is a bare minimum.
If we brought another winger in for the other side who was a threat to other teams, we'd see the best out of Alan Saint-Maximin, because he wouldn't have the 3 or 4 players marking him automatically. He wouldn't be the sole creator from the wing. And also, I think we'd get a better goal return as well from Callum Wilson, because anything could happen from both sides. Whereas right now, it's like a magic ball from Bruno, or Alan Saint-Maximin's going to have to run through people to create something. Obviously, Joe Linton was fantastic on Saturday, but that won't always be the case, depending on who we're playing against, the bigger teams.
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Gerdoran agrees with you on ASM over Pulisic. He basically agreed with you, saying he worked hard and actually passed the ball. I agree. Can we see a new Maxi this season? Possibly, I think. Pulisic on the right wing, I think possibly it could be a good idea. I think he started there when he played for Dortmund back in the day, on the right-hand side. So that could be an option if we were to sign him. But I can see him having a lot of other suitors who would probably prefer play him on his preferred left-hand side. Conor Gallagher be a quality addition with the loss of Shelby for a few months. Yes, I agree, but I think in a way he's a bit similar to Joe Linton. Do you not think in his tenacity in the midfield? I know he scores more, but
Yeah.
who do you think he would replace? Because he's not replacing Bruno. Let's be honest here. Who would Conor Gallagher replace in the midfield?
Well, certainly not Joe Willock. No,
Well,
I think it depends who you're playing against, doesn't it? Because obviously, if it's a team where we're going out attacking, you'd have Joe Willock in. But I do think he's quite similar to Joe Linton in terms of he's going to bring that like aggression to the midfield. He's going to want the ball, like he's going to be making the challenges and things like that. Plus, he's also really good to have on an ACCA for a yellow card every weekend. So the more game time he gets, the better for me.
Yes. Yes. So I don't know what we're going to talk about next then, to be honest. I think that's all our transfer rumours.
We could talk about the lineup. What would you make any changes from Saturday?
No.
And if you say Joe Willock,
I wouldn't.
leaving.
No, I wouldn't, you know. I would have started Sean Longstaff last weekend, but stick with a winning team, keep confidence flowing. I think, yeah, I keep the same team. And please get your predictions in down below. Ooh, we have a donation from Soccer Steve. Thank you very much, Steve. Pulisic at Chelsea, hat-trick against Burnley, goals against City and Liverpool, winner against West Ham United, goals in the UCL semi-final against Real Madrid when they won it. No-brainer. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, fair enough. You've shot me down there. Thank you very much, Steve, for the donation as well. Bruno and Gallagher in mid, Joe on left, Maxi on right, Paqueta in middle behind Ramos. And
excuse me, what about Callum Wilson?
Yeah, what about Callum Wilson? You can't just assume he's injured. You got to wait for it to happen. But Bruno and Gallagher in mid, Joe on left. I don't think we want to put Joe Linton back out wide. I think he looks so comfortable in the middle, and I don't think. I don't think we need to switch formation. I think that's slightly playing fantasy football there. But
I think
also
we found
don't.
the formation now, haven't we? That works for us and the group of players we have.
There we go. He's corrected himself. Yes. So no, I wouldn't make any changes to the team. What about you, Beth? Would you mix it up?
No, I wouldn't make any changes at all. I don't think. I think everyone has earned their right to play on Saturday, and I don't think it's like the kind of game where we need to be making like crazy defensive changes and formation changes or anything. I think it's a game where with that team we could go out and compete. So I think we should keep it the same. I think a lot of people were surprised at the weekend that Botman wasn't starting, but I think that was the right decision to make and the fair decision to make.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was one of them. I thought he would start, but yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair enough. If Eddie Howe sees fit, he did the same with Bruno, and look how that's turned out. It's turned out very well. Yeah. He's thriving in the Premier League. He was towards the end of last season. He had a great game on Saturday. If that's the way Eddie Howe would rather do it, then I think easing in Botman is must be the correct decision. Yeah, I think you're talking about Joe Linton there. He did play on the left against Norwich, obviously, and scored twice, but that was a very poor Norwich side towards the end of last season. It doesn't mean I'm happy having him as an option on the left, but I'd rather not see that week in, week out. I think he looks really comfortable in the middle there.
He's playing his best football in the middle, isn't he? That's the Joe Linton that we're all in love with, the one that plays in the middle. There's no point in changing that, really.
Yeah, that's where he's made a name for, made a real name for himself. He made a name name for himself in a bad, unfortunate way initially when he was playing up front, but he's really, really reincarnated himself in the middle. So I don't see why we should change that. Dan Burner's earned a spot. Agree. He was very solid last weekend against Forest. Never underestimate Brighton. Yes.
Yeah.
Completely. And that should at Old Trafford. And whether Man United were just adapting at the moment or did underestimate them, Brighton are never a team you can underestimate them. Even if they've lost 4 or 5 in a row like they had last season, still came up to St James's and gave us a really good game.
And Graham, very good manager as well.
Yeah, he is. He's really good. He's a difficult customer. They are so good on the ball, Brighton. They're really, really hard to play against a lot of the time. Whatever Eddie Howe wants to do with the starting 11, I'm good with. Thank you very much again, Steve. And yeah, totally agree. Eddie Howe knows what he's doing, and until he makes a lot of mistakes, I trust him all the way.
I can't even really recall right now a really disastrous decision that Eddie Howe's made. Like, everything he does seems to work, and I think that's as well, like, a lot of the players believe in what he's doing, which obviously makes a real difference. Whereas before, you could tell everyone just thought Steve Bruce just didn't really understand what he was doing. And because Eddie Howe believes in what he's doing, the players also follow suit and they believe in that. So everyone just looks comfortable, don't they?
Yeah, and the atmosphere obviously feeds in to everything, making everyone happy. It's a positive atmosphere in the dressing room, in the stands, around the club. Everything is positive, and so it just breeds confidence and good results.
Yeah.
One final thing to mention actually is the kit that Newcastle are playing in on Saturday. What are your thoughts, Beth? Because I, in a sense, don't see why Brighton can't play in their away kit, but also, is it a way for the club to make the most of merchandising and stuff, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a way for the club to make money, isn't it? But also, it makes no sense that we're wearing this like pre-match shirt for a game as like this one-off thing. We haven't really had a proper explanation for it. We're all just assuming the reasons why. But like, I just don't understand how that clashes any less than the navy and gold one.
Yeah, no, I think it is because it is very vague. They say that because the Premier League have judged that Brighton's kits, or that Brighton's home kit, clashes with all 3 of our kits. That's why we can't wear any of them. Why can't they just change to their away kit? Let's not be unrealistic. We know that they're playing at home. They should be playing in their home kit. Could this be a fault of Cast? Well, in my eyes, it is a fault of Castor for a lack of design USPs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they've got to have the knowledge, haven't they, the designers, to know, like, realistically, what colour Brighton's home shirt's going to be every year. Like, it's not just going to suddenly be red or something. Like, they have a rough idea what each team strip's going to look like. So they should have known, like, what ours really needed to be, like, to not clash with them. So it is a fault of Castor, but that's just another one to add to the list, isn't it?
Yeah.
The faults that Castor are, like, doing.
That Twitter page is quite funny, and they've someone's created a new Twitter page, I think, recently, claiming to be Castor customers.
The help. I think it's funny. I keep going there and I see people that I follow and they're like tweeting them like, well, where's my shirt? And then like they're replying, just mugging them off, and they're not realizing that they're just like joking around. And I'm just like, oh. Like today they put a tweet out and they're like, oh, if you order the 4th shirt, it might turn up by this time next year. And people are like taking it seriously.
Ridiculous. If Newcastle finish 11th again, will it be a satisfactory season? Beth, you go first.
I don't really think you could say that it would be, no, because obviously most of our points last season were picked up, well, the vast majority of them were picked up when we got Eddie Howe. So you would expect that he'd be able to keep achieving things, the team would be able to keep achieving things. Obviously, it depends who we're bringing in, because a lot of the teams around us have made some good transfers, and you would expect us to do some more business. But I really don't think you could think that it would be satisfactory if we finished the same again, because like last season, basically we finished 11th off half a season.
But just to caveat this, cup runs.
Yeah.
What 11th, and say we get to a semi-final or a final of one of the cups, or further, but up to you.
Oh, I don't know. I think, like, as a Newcastle fan, everyone just wants to see us win a cup, don't they? Like, I would take a cup over anything. Obviously, I wouldn't accept relegation, but anything else, I would just love a cup. But I also think if we bring in a couple of players, the early rounds of the cup, we should have enough to beat the easier teams if we kept getting good draws. So, because obviously we've just got Tranmere, so you're expecting most of our bench players and squad players, they'd be playing in that game, and that should be enough for games like that. So that would then rest our first team. Yeah. So I think that means that I don't think a cup run should mean that you then fail in the league.
Yeah, no, I get you, but I think as it gets more serious, as we progress through the rounds, we're going to play our stronger team, meaning we'll be resting and rotating on the weekends. And I just think if we did get to the semi-final or final of, in particular, the FA Cup, but all Carabao Cup, I'd happily take that. And finishing 10th, if we finish between 8th and 11th, there's not too much in it.
Yeah.
All it is a bit of money and I put this lightly, but a bit of pride. But I'd much rather see us get to the semi-final of a cup and finish 11th than us finish, let's say, 8th and get knocked out in the 4th round of both cups.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I would go with 11th in the cup.
Yeah. Anyhow, get your score predictions in, please. We are about to invite Joe and Josh, our Brighton fans for this week, onto the show. So please do get your score predictions in for Saturday's game, just as we add them to the show. Beth, what's your prediction?
I don't know if you want me to do this, because I always jinx it.
Go ahead. You've got to now.
Have to. Right, well, I'll make my prediction, but then if it all goes to pot, it's your fault. But I think it's going to be 2-1 Newcastle.
Yeah. Okay. I am going to go for 1-1 draw, I think. We won't go back to back, unfortunately, but we'll stay unbeaten. Anyhow, here are Joe and Josh, our Brighton fans. Hello, lads. How are we doing this evening?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
I'm good, thank you. Yes. How are you, Josh?
Yep, not bad. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So, first of all, very good result for you guys last weekend. I'll start with you, Joe. How impressed were you with that?
Yeah, obviously after losing Basuma and Kukurea, a lot of fans were thinking we're going into that game a lot weaker than the game that we beat them 4-0. You could say it was an improvement on United's half that they only lost 2-1. But no, it was really good for us to get off to a winning start, especially at Old Trafford. We've never won there before. So yeah, it's all confidence going into Saturday against you guys.
And Josh, what did you make of that? Obviously, you went 2-0 up and held on to the win there. But how pleased were you to grab that victory?
Yeah, I mean, we just had a historic season in the Premier League, so it's always nice to continue making history straight away at Old Trafford, right, and getting a result against them for the first time ever. I've said this on my podcast too with the lads. It's obviously a great result away at Old Trafford. It should have been by more because there were some dodgy decisions going on there, as per usual, per Old Trafford. But, Manchester United are a difficult barometer, right, on how well the Albion are doing. Because United are just a very strange outfit. And it's really hard to know where Brighton are. I think we'll have a much better idea at the end of this weekend with a with a much more kind of established side in Newcastle, which sounds crazy to me to be saying that. Maybe 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been considering under the Ashley era as an established side. But, Manchester United are just an all-round poor team. Doesn't take away from the performance. I thought we were superb. And the reason we won was because we were better than them. And Potter is a superb manager that helps that. But they're a weird team, aren't they? They're just a mess. So.
Yeah, I suppose it's a difficult one to judge from that because Man United have had a fair bit of investment this summer, but have obviously not looked the part that last weekend, and they're adapting to Erik ten Hag. On to this weekend, though, we'll just have a look at Brighton's team from last weekend. 1 second, sorry, Beth, have you got any questions for that?
No, I don't have a question, but I've got a fact.
Go on then.
You two won't know this, but I'm really good at random facts when things get a bit awkward. So, Brighton are the team that Eddie Howe, as a manager, has had the most victories against. So he's had 10 victories against Brighton out of 17 games and only lost 3 times.
That doesn't bode well, does it?
Not for you two, no. So this was your starting lineup, as we see in the kind of the middle of the screen here. We know Graham Potter likes to kind of mix it up with his tactics. It can be quite unpredictable with his formations. Likes Brighton to be solid and dominant on the ball. Josh, I'll start with you this time. Do you see Brighton making many changes this weekend?
I hate this question because of the exact reason you just said. On paper, right, this is a team that just went to Old Trafford, first game of the season, without Cucurella and Bissouma, and 1-2-1, and paid Old Trafford tax in full, right? Like we dealt with the BS and still came away with a win. So on paper, logic says, no, this is pretty much going to be the same side that will roll out at the Amex. They're well equipped to do the business against anyone in the Premier League. The reality is Potter just doesn't care what we think. He's the same as Pep, right? Obviously not to the same caliber of players that he's managing, but he sees a team, and despite the fact that we did what we did at Old Trafford, he may well see changes he wants to make. As it pertains to playing Newcastle United on an individual basis, right? He's the one that's going to be looking into your team and deciding whether this is the lineup he wants to roll out or whether he wants to change it and tweak it to combat what you've got coming at us. So I know that's really just like a nothing burger of an answer, but I honestly don't know, if I'm honest, what the team's going to look like. But that's about all I've got, unfortunately.
Yeah, no worries. He obviously is unpredictable. I hate predicting or thinking of what your lineups are always going to be because Potter changes it week in, week out. He goes from a back 4 to a back 3, then maybe to a back 5, or it plays 2 up top, then plays 2 wide. Very unpredictable. Joe, a question for you, though. I was very surprised to see Tariq Lamptey missing out on the weekend as amongst Neil Maupay as well. I suppose any reason behind those two? Is it more the system Potter's trying to play, do you think? Or
I think with Neil last season, sort of after February, he hit a dry patch with goals. And Welbeck sort of came into the form of his life, really, and was playing really well up front. And just sort of getting back to the Welbeck that we sort of knew and loved from the England days, really. So I think he just fell out of favour. And obviously Welbeck has had a great pre-season, looking really sharp, and that's what I'm thinking, Graham's thinking with that. As for Tariq Lamptey, it's a tough one because he had the injury, and before the injury he was electric, and now he just looks as though he's a bit too scared to really go full pelt, and probably just got that injury in the back of his mind. But what I loved, he came on against United in the second half when we were sort of under the cosh, and he played really well, looked sharp, looked fit, and I'm just hoping that we're going to see the same Tariq Lamptey, because I'm sure you guys remember when he played you at St James Park during lockdown, I think it was. He ran you ragged and won a few penalties, well, I think one penalty, and saint-maximin was having a torrid time. So I'm hoping we see the same thing, but then he's got incredible competition in Solly March, who has been like a new player, really. A lot of fans get on his back. But yeah, we're seeing the form that Solly showed a good 2 years ago, and then he got injured. So we're not very lucky with our injuries at Brighton. So, but we're in a good spot at the moment, and we've got really good competition.
Yeah. Speaking of competition, we've seen Bissouma leave the door for you, but is Caicedo the ready-made replacement for him, do you think, Josh?
I think he's better, actually, in the future. Obviously, as we stand, Bissouma is now much older, a lot more Premier League experience. But I think that Caicedo is the better all-around midfielder. He was integral to the defensive duties that he did at Old Trafford. He led just about every defensive statistic on the board at Old Trafford. But if you watched him at the end of last season, when he started coming into the team, his offensive contributions were outrageous as well. Something that Bissouma was never quite able to get down. He was much more defensive. When he did come forward, his finishing ability was not the greatest in the world, and would always take that touch a bit too many and lose the ball every now and again. Caicedo doesn't do that. He's an incredibly intelligent footballer, and I think that when you're looking at the outrageous amount of money that was spent on Cucurella this summer, I suspect that if you want to look at the next man in line for that conveyor belt of stupid money signings that come out of Brighton, Caicedo is the obvious one. Because he's just insane for what has been 10 senior starts in the Premier League so far. He is a very talented player, and he will be better than Bissouma. I can guarantee you that.
Big
That's going to be a clip
there.
we're going to come back to, isn't it?
Yep, come back to that in a couple of years.
My favourite part of that was you said he's better, and then you went, you like waited in the future.
yeah, he's only 20, but the speed in which he seems to just understand things is mental. And I said it a couple of days ago, and I said it just a little bit ago to someone else. This World Cup game, Qatar versus Ecuador, is supposed to be like the worst opening World Cup game ever, I think they say. Just watch it for Caicedo alone. Because Ecuador are going to be a very exciting team with him at the heart of that midfield.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see in the future, like you say, if and how he develops. Just onto something that Josh just mentioned before, Joe. The loss of Marc Cucurella. How do you think Graham Potter will deal with this? Obviously, it's difficult to predict because he is unpredictable, but he played at left-sided centre back. He played at left wing back. What do you think the plan is?
Yeah, I think what we've got at Brighton is a decent array of centre backs already, especially if we can keep Adam Webster fit. I believe he's left-footed. I might be wrong, but he always seems to play on that side of the defence alongside Duncan Veltman. But then we've got the likes of Solly March, Leandro Trossard to slot in at left wing back as well. So I think obviously Cucurella is going to be a huge miss. He's an incredible player, as you say, extremely versatile, and Graham Potter absolutely adores versatility. I think we've seen him play Pascal Gross at right back once before, which was incredible in all the wrong ways.
Especially as you see him score twice again at Old Trafford as well.
Well, exactly, yeah. Much prefer him in the advanced role. But no, I think we're in an okay spot with our defensive options. I'd like to see maybe one more added in. I think we're linked to Reguilon from Spurs, which I would take that instantly. I'd snap your hand off for him. Another great speedy option at left back. So, as I say, I think we'll be okay. But it's, as you say, it's really hard to predict because Graham has so many ideas.
Yeah, he is very unpredictable. We'll just have a look at your transfer business done this summer. Josh, what have you made of the Brighton transfers this summer?
What ones?
All of them. All of you. I'm just going to get it up.
We've not done any business barring two. So we brought in Simon Adingra from I believe it was a Norwegian Premier League side. He's gone straight out on loan, the loan program to USG over in Belgium. So we'll just see how he develops. He's another one that we'll let just sit and watch. The only one we've made so far that may have a sniff at the first team is Julio Enciso from Libertad in Paraguay. Supposedly a very, very exciting young talent. He is only 18. Looked very bright in pre-season. Did not make the squad against Manchester United. Did make the under-23s. Potter said today he is very much still undecided as to whether he is going to end up going out on loan or not. So he may well also be a development option as well. So to answer the question of how this summer's transfers have gone, there hasn't really been any. Obviously, they're two talented looking players for the future, both offensive minded, which is great, right? Because offensively is where we need to be. Welbeck is not getting any younger. Mopé is probably on his way out. And Undav is unproven despite the insane ratio he had last year in Belgium. But I mean, if you want to talk about the additions to the squad, you need to be talking about Mitoma, who we signed, a year or so ago, and we sent out on loan. He's never played a game of Premier League football, but we got his visa sorted out after playing in Belgium for a year. So he is essentially a new signing. We signed Dennis Undav as well in January and loaned him back out for USG to finish their campaign. And he's come back as well. So again, he's essentially a brand new signing. We've got Van Heck, who is or was Blackburn's player of the season last year at centre back as well. So he's another one to keep an eye on. He made the bench this weekend. We've got a very usual group of young, talented players coming through behind the big boys. So for me, I think although we haven't done a lot of business this summer, and I think a left back is absolutely still going to happen personally. The group that are coming in aren't technically this summer's signings, but some of them are incredibly exciting. Mitoma especially, he looks very special when he does come on. I was hoping we'd see him at Old Trafford, but we were at such a point of game management, we didn't want to mess around and bring on such an electric player. And as I said, Undav's goal involvement ratio was just nuts last year, just stupid. So whether he can transfer those 40 odd goal involvements last year into Premier League, we'll wait and see. He's got to beat out Welbeck first, who is basically looking like the most insane in shape dude I've seen in a long time. He seems to have spent the entire summer working on cardio and weights. He looks like an absolute monster. So if he can stay fit, Undav has got a lot of work to do just to get in the squad, which is crazy when you think of how many goals he was scoring last year.
Do you think your transfer window would have been different if Dan Ashworth was still there?
No.
Fair enough.
No, I don't. I think the reason I say that is because we generally sign players in advance, right? We knew Bissouma was going. Sooner or later, in the next year or two, it was pretty clear Bissouma was going to be gone. So we brought in Caicedo with that entire move in mind. Cucurella was not a planned exit. That's why we held on to him and charged so much money for him. Yeah. So we're now having to be reactionary instead of proactive, which is not Albion's MO at all. That's not the model that Brighton work on. So no, I don't think so. I don't think it would have been any different. I think we're still probably working on the backlog of whatever Ashworth had. But per Ashworth himself, he really wasn't involved much in the recruitment outside of Lallana and Welbeck, which were obvious moves, right, with his English FA stuff. But he himself has said he didn't really do a lot in the recruitment side. His real work, and it will be the benefit to you two, his work was in building the infrastructure to become a sustainable Premier League team from the bottom up. And that was something that Albion didn't quite have, right? We'd just come up. We'd never been in the Premier League. Last time we were up was like 1983. So we needed to build that infrastructure. He was the perfect person to bring in. And we now have obviously an incredibly smart manager, an incredibly smart owner and chief exec that can build on that foundation. And they will. I don't think we're going to suffer like other teams have when Ashworth has left. I think we're far too well ran for that. But yeah, transfer wise, he said he wasn't really involved, barring those England moves. So I don't think it would have made a difference.
So, Joe, are you expecting a lot of incomings in the near future then for Brighton? Obviously, you've made a net profit of about 70 million, especially with Josh mentioned Malpe might be leaving. What do you think the areas you'll be targeting will be, other than maybe left back?
Yeah, obviously, if Mope leaves, then we need another striker in there. As Josh mentioned, we do have Undav, but he's unproven at this level. So yeah, I think maybe one more in midfield as well. I think what we need to give Graham is just squad depth, because what we have at the moment in the midfield is Caicedo and McAllister, who, to be honest, even if we do bring anyone in, I would like to see them in the middle of the park, because they've been phenomenal together. And yeah, as you mentioned, left back, so maybe one or two, but I'm not expecting loads. That's just not the way we do it. Obviously, we had got £50 million from Ben White last season, £13 million from you guys for Dan Burn. We haven't really seen that reinvested, but it's obviously going into the right places, into the academy, as Josh mentioned, into the infrastructure, to make sure we're putting the right resources where they need to go. So, as I say, I think we'll see one or two more, but predicting Brighton's incomings is crazy. I'd never heard of Caicedo 3 years ago. I'd never heard of Enciso, but they look to be pretty decent acquisitions. So yeah, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, and just before we look at who we think your danger man is, who are you looking out for from a Newcastle perspective this weekend? But I can predict you'll probably say Alan Saint-Maximin, but who else?
I don't know his name. Bruno Ramirez, I think his name. Yeah, he's pretty decent. Had a great end to the season last season. And to be honest, when the fixture list came out and I saw we had United and Newcastle first, I was more concerned about the Newcastle game at home, because we struggled last season with our home form. And it's going to be really important for us to get off to a winning start, and it's going to be a very, very interesting test. As you say, Eddie Howe's come in and he shored the ship, if you like, and you play really, really nice football, and you're a really strong team from the back right up to Callum Wilson, if he's still in favour. So yeah, it's going to be a really tough game. But yeah, I'm worried about Gomes.
Yeah, and Josh, who are you watching from your perspective?
Well, Beth will like this one. Eddie Howe, frankly. I was aware of that fact, painfully aware. He is kryptonite for us. He is someone that seems to just have our number under whatever manager. He just has a really good run of form against us. So that's who I'm most concerned about. What he's going to put out there, what he's going to have drilled in, and just whatever hoodoo he has against us. I hope someone can go and break whatever voodoo jar or shit he's got going on, because he just seems to have an incredible run of form against us. Obviously, the on the pitch, right? The obvious one is ASM, but I think that for me, I think the other obvious one is Dan Burn, right? He's going to be massively fired up, as you would expect him to be. Never known him to be much of a goal scorer, aerial threat. You'll know from seeing him, he's like 7'7", but not the biggest danger man from heading the ball. But he's always going to be one, right? That's always the cliche that you see players coming back to clubs they've left and doing particularly well. So like, he's kind of a problem. Bruno, obviously, as Joe has already mentioned, definitely a name up there. He's obviously a very talented player. But yeah, for me, Eddie Howe is going to be the bigger problem. What he puts out there and the way he motivates them, it's obviously incredibly good. So it's a bit of a cop-out calling it the manager, but I mean, his record speaks for itself against us. So
yeah, I'm just going to get one of your players up who I think is going to be a key man for you, or who I would be fearful most from a Newcastle perspective, and it is your man, Leandro Trossard, for me.
I was going to say the same thing, Harry.
Well, I'm very glad, because that means we can agree on something for once. So, yeah, I've just got his stats from last season, and look at this. He's playing everywhere here. It's so much just Graham Potter's unpredictability. Plays on the left, plays through the middle, plays on the right. I think he's got 8 goals and 3 assists last season. Beth, why do you fear him?
I just feel like whenever we've played against Brighton and he's been like the standout player. Like, our defence can't cope with him. He runs us ragged and he always looks a threat. Like, every time I watch him play, he looks a threat. And he looks like he's going to be the person that's going to make something happen. Like, he's a bit like our saint-maximin in this sort of like, you think, oh my God, he's got the ball. What's going to happen? Like, we just can't seem to cope with him very well. Like, he does look exciting. So I love him, but I can't stand him when he plays against us.
He is really a pain, isn't he?
Yeah.
I have bad memories. I have nightmares about him and Tariq Lamptey from a couple of seasons back. Honestly, I don't think I've recovered yet. So I think this between these two clubs, it could be bit of a rivalry come the end of the season. Who do you, without your attempted bias removal, please, Joe? Who do you think finishes higher?
I think it's going to be Newcastle, isn't it? With the funding you've got and the way Eddie Howe ended last season, I joined just before when you guys were talking just between yourselves, and Beth, you mentioned like the points tally Eddie Howe got you to staying up, and you're absolutely right, and that could be the thing that gets you as high as even 7th this season. And if that is the case, then it's obviously a credit to him. But yeah, comparing, because obviously you guys are spending decent amounts of money on I feel like the right players as well. I don't think you're just going out and splashing the cash on Mbappe and players like that. That's never going to be the way to get the success that your owners clearly want. So yeah, it pains me to say, but I think it will be you guys that finish higher than us.
And Josh, do you agree with Joe?
Yeah, I do. And he says 7th. Why not 6th? Manchester United aren't going to finish in their top 6, are they? They're nothing to shake a stick at. They're not impressive. We saw it last weekend. So I mean, why not higher than 7th? The beauty of it is there's a lot of teams that are aiming for the same goal, right? You've got Villa that are definitely aiming for that same kind of area. West Ham is aiming for that same area. You've got a bunch of teams that are all going to want to be up there, and including Brighton, rightly or wrongly, we're going to want to continue to build, right? But I think like Joe said, the amount of funding and money you guys have, and the signings you've made, and the manager you have. I think it's the logical answer is to say Newcastle will finish above Brighton. But Graham Potter, man, he's not human. He makes crazy stuff happen. So I would be foolish to count us fully out when he's at the helm.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that'll be a close run battle. Thanks, Supermags1, for joining us on Twitch. Finally, lads, I'll start with Josh's time and we'll get your score predictions. What do you think score will be on Saturday?
Yeah, I'm going for a boring 1-1. I think that we'll both stay unbeaten for the season so far, early days. The Amex has not been kind to us for the last couple of years since lockdown. So it would be nice to get that fortress back, but I don't think it will be quick enough to happen this week. But I think we'll draw. And I wouldn't be surprised, just to annoy all the fantasy Premier League players out there, if Pascal Gross scores that goal again, just to wind everybody up. Because I know you mentioned Trossard as the danger man. I feel like Pascal Gross has also refound his form to a point that he hasn't seen for a long time. Again, credit to Graham Potter. And Pascal Gross is one of the smartest footballers I've ever seen play in real life. He is not quick. He's not strong. He's not anything. He just is a regular dude. And yet finds himself scoring a brace at Old Trafford. That's just what he does. He's right place, right time. And I think that a lot of clubs this season, just like the last couple of years in the Prem, will be surprised at the annoying ability he has when you don't expect it. So, but I'm going to go 1-1, and I would take that too for what it's worth. That would be a good result for us at home. First game, home game of the season. Take that, tough game.
Yeah, and Joe.
So I'm speaking completely from the heart here. I'm normally quite the pessimist, but my buddy Curtis from our podcast is coming to his 3rd ever Brighton game, which is really exciting for him. And he hasn't seen us win yet. So purely because I want him to see us win, I'm going to go for a 1-0 win. And I'm going to go for as you say, Josh, a Pascal Gross winner from the penalty spot, let's say.
From the penalty spot, eh? Interesting. So not too biased from you two. We got one draw and one Brighton win. I think I went 1-1, and Beth, remind us what your prediction was.
2-1 to the Toon.
2-1 positivity.
Yeah, but
so we got.
You know, when we played at St James's Park, right, and we won. Let me just tell you, we won. I'll just remind you. Since then, in the starting 11, if we go off what we played on Saturday, and it was the same starting 11, 6 of our players have changed since then, and they haven't downgraded; they've upgraded. So I think that's a good sign for us, isn't it?
We were in a torrid run though when we played you at
Newcastle, that's true.
James Park, and we just didn't seem to be finding a way out of it at all. But yeah, I think we scored our only goal in 7 games against you. So
I didn't know that fact.
Brilliant. Anyway, that has been our Brighton preview and our recap of the last week. Please join Lee down at the Amex Stadium on Saturday. He will have all the content for you, match reaction, the last word. I think he might be doing a vlog as well. So please stay tuned for Newcastle on Newcastle Fan TV for Saturday. Hit the notification bell to keep you up to date and make sure you are subscribed. And please like the video as well. But thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you all very soon.